Hello everyone. One of the most iconic shows of the 1990s, along with Alf, Friends and Beverly Hills 90210, is the hilarious British sitcom Mr. Bean. This character is so weird that you just can't stop watching him getting into incredible situations and coming out of them in the most comic manner. But did you know that Mr. Bean's character was invented by the actor himself, Rowan Atkinson? The comedian claims that he came up with the character while he was studying at Oxford University many years before he began acting. He drew inspiration from Monsieur Hulot, a character from an old French comedy. We don't need to tell you how famous Atkinson became after the show aired. After all, in 1992 alone, it was seen by almost 19 million people. Back then, these figures were even more impressive than they are today, when everyone has access to YouTube and all the movies of the world on their smartphone. It's hard to imagine how Atkinson's life changed because of his frantic popularity, but almost 3 decades have passed since then. What is he doing now? Today, we're going to tell you the most interesting facts about Mr. Bean's real life before and after the show. Let's get it on. Curiously, even though Atkinson is a world-famous brilliant comedian now, he was very shy as a kid. By the way, did you know that the actor studied with a famous British politician? We're talking about former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. He was the head of the cabinet of the United Kingdom for 10 years and leader of the Labour Party. Along with Atkinson, he attended Chorister School in Durham. Teachers remember Blair as an ambitious and outgoing child, while little Mr. Bean was told to be shy and modest. After school, Atkinson studied at Queen's College, Oxford University, but curiously he didn't study acting. In fact, he graduated in electrical engineering, as did his father 40 years prior, all thanks to Atkinson's relentless desire to understand how things work around him. At the age of 10, little Mr. Bean supposedly could assemble and disassemble an iron without problems. A few years ago, it was revealed that the famous actor Jim Carrey was so successful in embodying strange characters because he'd been dealing with ADHD since childhood. Atkinson was in a similar situation. All his life he suffered from stammering, but he turned it into his trademark feature. To disguise his speech defect, the actor invented a special, exaggerated way of pronouncing some sounds, like the B, and the audience loved it.
He will reappear, but you never know. You must never. You must never say never again. You must never say never. But there does come a point when you feel as though you.
In addition, the actor admits that over time, his stammering began to disappear. But still, before becoming a famous comedian, Rowan had problems with it, especially when talking with his peers. At school, his classmates called him names for his way of speaking, his facial expressions, and his quirky smile. Later, his college classmates immediately nicknamed him Weirdo. Atkinson became interested in acting by accident, although it literally saved his life. In Oxford, the future comedian met Richard Curtis, a student theatre enthusiast. It was he who prompted Rowan to use his skills to his advantage and to try out his skills in comic pantomime. This encounter was indeed life-changing for both of them. It was thanks to this duo that the character of Mr. Bean sprang to life, in addition to many other successful ideas. For example, early in his TV career, Rowan participated in a satirical program on the BBC. The show was called Not the 9 O'Clock News and consisted of parodies of politicians, stars, and other famous people. He wrote all these sketches in collaborations with his friend Richard. And what do you think happened? In 1980, 5 years after graduating from college, the program's lead character, Atkinson himself, was named Man of the Year by the BBC. In addition, the program won many prestigious awards, including the International Emmy Award and the British Academy Award. Of course, Rowan was happy with the success and decided to continue his acting career. By the way, the character wasn't initially named Mr. Bean. In the original version, his name was Mr. White, and later Mr. Cauliflower, and only at the last moment it was changed to the famous name we all know. Atkinson also has an unusual hobby: driving lorries. He even received a special CE driving license in 1981. After college, Atkinson even thought about setting up his own transport company, since after finishing his studies he couldn't find a place in life, and couldn't even talk to girls due to his peculiar facial features and speech. After the show Mr. Bean was finally launched, Atkinson was given a chance to give his first public performance, but the actor made a request. He wanted to appear in front of a French-speaking, not an English-speaking audience. For the comedian, it was necessary to see if his style of low-word comedy would appeal to viewers from other countries. The success was beyond measure.
He's a genius, huh?
That's what they tell me.
Allowing Mr. Bean to be released in 245 countries around the world. The secret of the legendary show is the universality of the character and its behavior, which doesn't need to be explained. Although Atkinson plays a clumsy and cowardly character, in real life he loves cars and enjoys racing. His collection includes many sports cars, such as a McLaren F1 and a Renault 5 GT Turbo, as well as business-class sedans such as the Skoda Superb and the Audi A8. Once he was involved in an accident during a car race though. Unfortunately, his Aston Martin V8 Zagato ended up completely wrecked, but Atkinson didn't suffer any serious injuries. However, his career as a racer is full of successes. For example, in 2011, Atkinson participated in the filming of the world-famous show Top Gear. While driving a Kia Ceed, the actor covered the track in a record time, becoming the champion of this amateur competition. However, a year later, his record was broken by the legendary Matt LeBlanc, best known as Joey from Friends. He topped Atkinson by just 1 millisecond.
In 1 minute, 42, 1.
But speaking of accidents, Atkinson broke his favourite McLaren F1 twice, in 1997 and 2011. The second time, the comedian demanded a compensation of £910,000 from the insurance company, the highest recorded compensation in British history. Subsequently, the car was sold at an auction to an anonymous British citizen for $12 million. Obviously, only Rowan Atkinson could sell a car for that amount of money after repeated breakdowns and accidents. By the way, Mr. Bean changes cars quite often. This year, for example, he sold his Mercedes-Benz 500e with an incredible mileage of more than 310,000 kilometers. That's in spite of the fact that modern Mercedes-Benz engines for passenger cars are built to last up to 250,000 kilometers. But who cares if it's the car of a world-famous star? This story proves once again that Rowan is not like Mr. Bean. He once saved a plane from crashing. In March 2001, Atkinson and his family were traveling in a private jet across Africa. Suddenly, the pilot lost consciousness. Atkinson took over and kept the plane in the air until the pilot woke up. Fortunately, the landing went smoothly, but who knows what would have happened if it wasn't for Atkinson's courage. By the way, before the incident, the actor had never seen the control system of an aircraft. If you've seen the comedy Johnny English, a James Bond parody with Atkinson in the lead role, you must remember how he meets the British Queen. In the movies, it always happens in extremely comical circumstances, but in real life, of course, it was very different. In 2013, the comedian was appointed Commander of the Order of the British Empire by Queen Elizabeth II for his contribution to drama and charity. You're probably wondering how many millions Atkinson has if he can afford such a luxurious life. According to current estimates, Atkinson's assets amount to about $130 million, even though his filmography is one of the shortest among the most famous actors in the world, all thanks to the impressive success of Mr. Bean and Johnny English, as well as the income from his small business selling cars and real estate in London and abroad. Although many years have passed since the launch of the series, it's still widely acclaimed by fans around the world. Atkinson says the Mr. Bean royalties keep filling up his bank account. That's why the 25th anniversary of the series couldn't have passed unnoticed. In 2013, Atkinson climbed into a chair on the roof of the legendary yellow Mini with a teddy bear and drove through the centre of London as Mr. Bean.
Oh, money.
He even passed by Buckingham Palace and bought himself an ice cream at St. James's Park, bringing to life the famous scene of the episode Do It Yourself, Mr. Bean.
Good morning. Please, would that be possible? Thank you very much. Oh,
Obviously, everyone was delighted. So what is Atkinson up to today? A couple of years ago, he admitted that he dreamed of making a film featuring an elderly Mr. Bean, with all his peculiarities and dementia on top of that. Since then, however, nothing else has been heard about the project. Perhaps because a couple of years ago, Atkinson became a father for the third time, at 62. The actor confessed that he spends all his time with his daughter, and even decided to take a paternity leave, sacrificing his own projects to be next to his 35-year-old wife, actress Louise Ford. So, in the foreseeable future, there probably won't be any new projects featuring Mr. Bean. Psst, dude, are you looking for new technologies and great gadgets? Are your thoughts focused on the future? Do you love huge vehicles and can't imagine your life without robots around you? Then visit TechZone and you'll find all this and more. The link is in the description. You interested? Great.